Okay, so welcome everybody to our weekly connection. I'd like to start this meeting by asking a question, and that is, in your opinion, what makes a person evil?
What was the question, Yehuda?
What makes a person evil?
Hurting with intention.
Someone who does something and exactly.
What is it, Rich?
I'm sorry. She said exactly what I thought said. But when someone does something and they know it's going to hurt you, or intention, as she said, and they still do it without any regard to how it's going to make the person feel. So I think it's all about actions.
So that is the most obvious, yes? It's when we are doing something that causes harm knowingly and intentionally. Yes? Everybody's in agreement?
Yes.
What if the actions, the intentions of an individual are not as obvious? In other words, the person would be oblivious, or the person would be in denial of manipulation, schemes, a certain intent to lead a person that's gonna benefit him or her. In the big scheme of things, we don't exactly realize when we do evil until it's too late. And this session is not about, proving that we're all evil, because we're here to really discuss about Balak, who is the incarnation of somebody who was extremely powerful, who was considered as one of the most powerful spiritually and physically individual in the world, matching the level of Moses. And so there were a number of people that would see Balak as at least as powerful as Moses, if not sometimes even more. But according to the Zohar scriptures, the way that he is described in the Torah, he's an evil person. So this is why before we go into the obvious, we can say, okay, A, B, and C, Balak is evil. But there is a little bit of Balak in each one of us. There is a little bit of Moses in each one of us. There is a little bit of a spark of a righteous and a spark of a, something that's not as positive in us. I was driving. I do a lot more driving now that we're in Florida. So you're probably going to hear a lot of examples about driving now. And so, I'd say that majority of the time I keep my cool and my calm, but the thought crossed my mind that there could have been like an aspect of me, maybe many, many years ago, that could have chased after the guy just to tell him what you just did wasn't okay. To be honest, since we're here, we're so careful with driving because people here are driving like, where did they get the driver license? And on the road to wherever I was going, there was at least 2 accidents, and it's no surprise. People are driving like crazy, and it's not necessarily you driving crazy, you know, that you risk your life. It's the people. You need to be careful. You always need to be on the defense mode when you're driving. So I'm taking this example because we need to be on the defense all the time by those very subtle attacks of the consciousness. And you can call it the spirit of Balak or anything that would be like it. By now, I think that all of us believe in spirits, angels, demons. If you believe in angels, you believe in demons, right? If you don't believe in either of them, then, you know, that's great too. But if you believe in angels, you also believe in them, in demons. There is no such a thing as you believe in angels and then you don't believe in demons. Like they're part of like the same quantum field or whatnot, the spiritual realm. There is the good and the bad, there is angels and demons, there is light and darkness. Although in the ultimate, there is none of that. In the ultimate, there is just light. There is just endless love that nurtures everything. Now, without going through the entire process or lessons, how did we get here? Right now, we are in a state, we are in a reality dimension where there is good and bad. And the good and bad is rarely out there. Out there, as I would say, the seed level of all misery that exists in the world. If we breathe and we exist in this physical reality, we are, de facto, we are all contributing to the existing chaos. Why? Because we're made of good and bad. We're made of, you know, the positive that whispers all day and the negative that whispers all day. And what's happening all day is that conflict that exists between the two of them. But the fact that we breathe, the fact that we exist in this reality, remember, we're here to correct. So if we were all good and all perfect, we wouldn't be here. We would be on the state of master, or on the state of angel, on the state of great spirit, guide, right? The fact that we are all still here breathing, there is an aspect of something that is not as good, that is demanding to be elevated. And a lot of times, the reason that we're encountering or facing challenges, difficulties, or Balak situations, or people like Balak, it is to take the best out of us and not naturally, reactively, the worst out of us. A lot of times, you know, people are saying, but why do you stay in this relationship after a person has been in the wrong relationship, in a toxic relationship for 20 years? First of all, we call this tikkun. We call this karma, which is, in translation, correction. There is something that each one of us came to learn, to elevate in our consciousness, in our level of the soul, so that we can purify ourselves inside out. We're learning this week about Balak just to remind ourselves, you know, don't just like, you know, like there is an expression in Hebrew that says, Lauf al atzmecha, which is like, I can't really translate it word to word. It's like somebody who is like so proud of who he or she is. And I mean, there can be some basis to it, but you can see that the person is like really like, has an inflated ego about it. And so this person is afalatzmo. You really can translate that. It's really like just Israelis can understand that. Word to word is to fly on yourself. So you can really translate it into English. But that's a person, like when you see a person that is like full of ego and pride, and he's like talking about himself, and he has like all these movies about, you know, how great he's doing, and he's touching this and he's touching that, and he's a lot of times you're dealing with people that are, that's a French word this time, it's mythoman. Mythoman is a person that like builds, stories that are not exactly real, but he builds a lie upon that story and he believes it and he makes you believe it. So there is a perfect word for it. You can look it up, and I think I Googled it once and I saw it in English, but it's not commonly used in English. Mythoman, Mythoman. Yeah, something like that. And so anyway, so this is like when I read, the passage about Balak. So Rabbi Shimon is explaining that the great power that Bilam had to influence people by his speech, in which he included a good deal of truth. So this is in the story of Balak and Bilam, two great sorcerers, is that in order to create a scenery or basically something that's going to overthrow an individual, your financial, professional situation, people cannot just lie. They have to come with facts, and the facts have to be inflated. And this is how the snake also operates. The snake in the story of Adam and Eve used a piece of truth to create a lie. The piece of truth is that if they touch the tree, they're not going to die. The thing is that Adam, to be cautious, went to Eve and said, if you touch the tree, God told me, if we touch the tree, we die. If we eat from it, we die. God only mentioned not to eat from the tree, but he wanted to play it safe. So the snake, the same as God, not on the same level, but they are connected to that reality of truth. And that reality of truth is that, every word, every thought, every action that we said, mentioned it last week also, is recorded. So he knows that you're lying. So he knows that you're lying and you didn't say like the entire truth and you used it like, like to be overly cautious. So he goes to Eve and he says, he lied to you. And she said, no, it's not possible. He would never lie to me. It's like God spoke to him. He said, no, he lied to you. And imagine if he lied about this, then everything is false. And what did he do? He went and he tripped Eve. And Eve fell on the tree and touched the tree. And lo and behold, nothing happens. She didn't die. You see, I told you. If you touch the tree, you won't die. So imagine if in my opinion, if you eat from the tree, you're not going to die too. Because if he's capable to lie about this, then everything is a lie. The snake used a piece of truth to create a lie. And this is what sorcery is based on. And this is what also an evil person or a moment of, I don't know if the word exists, evilness. A moment of evilness would be used for. Rarely would it carry power, would it carry energy if it doesn't contain truth. And with truth, you create gigantic, monstrous lies. With truth. And so, there is an expression, l'arbitz Torah. Again, if I was to translate it word to word, it's to hit, like to hit with the Torah. So obviously, you don't take like the scroll of the Torah and you physically hit a person, but a lot of times when a teacher, and I'm talking about all sorts of teachers, I'm talking about priests and rabbis and imams and whatnot, they can get like very inflamed and passionate about their point, and it's always or oftentimes at the edge of anger, or sometimes even at the edge of hatred. And so you see like extremists on all boards. They can be religious or spiritual people, but there is so much rage, there is so much hatred in their speech. And again, when you're looking at what they're talking, not everything is false. There is some truth in what they say. So obviously, like the outcome of where they take their point is totally not okay, and is totally not spiritual or religious or whatever you call it, especially when you're calling, to eliminate or harm somebody else in the name of God or in the name of Jesus or in the name of Allah or Moses or whatnot. It's insane that not insane, but you find it everywhere, even in religion and even in spirituality. And so this is why it is also a trap that we need to be careful as teachers. So right now I'm a teacher in my position teaching you something, but you could be teaching your spouse or your children or your parents or just people that are coming to ask you for advice. And so imagine that you have spoken to this person like 5 times, one time after the other. At some point you get a little bit short. At some point, and it's not that you're speaking lies, you're using truth. So your arguments are made of truth. I've told you exactly the same thing for 5 times, and it's not going to be different right now. But it just seems that, and the conversation continues, and it basically unravels into something that's not so positive, creating space, and the person doesn't want to talk to you anymore. You don't want to talk to this person anymore. There is creation of space. The purpose of Satan, the purpose of Balak, Bilam, and all those evil energies is to create space. It's to create space, it's to create wars, and it's to create hatred and anger, etc. So if at the seed level, the truth, any truth, leads to something that is not appropriate or is not acceptable or doesn't feel right, it's no-brainer. It is no-brainer. This is not coming from the light. If from the truth you don't come out of what you're hearing as replenished, as filled up, empowered, encouraged to do your spiritual work, that is not light. That cannot come from the light. So unfortunately, this is why I said, like, we are all in this together. I can be like the most spiritual person, and I can have like, I've learned and all the books by heart, and I can be like a recognized scholar. It's the biggest trap, because now I have access to all this truth, which are all ingredients and instruments of the opponent. So this is why it says that the Creator is always more meticulous with the righteous. So if a wicked does something that's considered a sin or a disconnect, steals, lies, cheats, whatnot, it's expected of him. But if you have risen to the level of, let's say, spirituality and doing your spiritual work and working on yourself, and one day you just give yourself a day off as far as the spiritual work goes, the Creator is more meticulous with us, where the descent, where the fall is greater when you have risen yourself to such highs. When a person is at the bottom, he can fall lower than that. You follow what I'm saying? And so this is why, to whatever degree we are, truth is everywhere, and we're here to learn about this truth, but we're here to elevate ourselves with truth. The thing is that the trap and the tricks of Balak, Bilam, of Satan, of the snake is so concealed and so harsh that majority of the times we don't see anything. We're in complete denial. And so if anything, what we want is to, I don't know if it's to exactly be shown the times that we are, because people don't like to look at their garbage. People don't like to discover that they have so much ego. But maybe what we can ask in this week that the energy is Balak, Bilam, etc., it's to really ask to be more on the side of Moses, of what Moses is incarnating. And Moses and all the lineage out of Moses is incarnating spiritual work. To be, by extension, the hand of the Creator in anything that we say and anything that we do. Why? Because as long as we are here existing in this physicality, we are baits. That's the word. We are baits to the evil inclination. And we might think of ourselves as strong and spiritual and religious and you know, and having like all this aptitude to overcome things. And it might be true again in some level. But if anything, I would ask and beg the Creator to have a greater realization on how much more help I need. And to ask for that help. Ask for that support from the Creator. Ask for that support from Moses. Ask for that support from whoever you consider is your channel to the light. And as best and as much as we can, tolerate as much as we can tolerate to have clarity or disclosure about our flaws, so that we can slowly but gradually realize that we are in it and choose not to do it anymore. You know, a lot of the people that are recovering from addiction, they were addicted before. They started with being addicted, they didn't like it to the point that they committed to stop. And if there is 1 week after 20 years, it's their 50th anniversary. We have good friends and students in the Miami Center. It's the 50th anniversary. Amazing. 50th anniversary. So inspiring. So imagine if that person was recovering alcoholic. 50th anniversary, come on, just a little shot. It's not tolerated. You take a shot. You can't say anymore, I've been, you know, what's the word? What's the word when a person doesn't drink anymore? Sober. I'm sober 50 years. That's it. He has to start over. Can you imagine? So imagine if we do the same from the spiritual work perspective. First, what is the first thing? Like as soon as it is their turn to talk, what is the first thing that they say? This is my name, and I am an alcoholic, or I am, you know, alcoholic, or I have an addiction. The first thing is admission. The first thing is to admit that I have an addiction. It's to admit that I have a flaw. If we don't admit and we don't recognize that an ego, manipulation, agenda is what leads my decisions, is what leads the education of my children, of my relationship with my spouse. I mean, there is this guy that divorced like already like the 8th time. And each time he says, oh, it's woman's fault. They just don't understand me. Oh, so what's in it for you? Like, what is your responsibility? Are you kidding? I've been always like the one that gives and the one that does and the one that... If you always find that the flow is outside of you, nothing is going to change about your life or about our lives. The first level to read ourselves, or at least to start walking on that direction of reading ourselves of that spirit that is built in us, of Balak, of Bilam, the snake, the evil inclination, is to admit that it's in us. We're not evil people, we have evil moments. And so I'm asking, and I'm honest with myself, give me a little bit more disclosure. Although I want 100% of the light, I don't want 100% disclosure. Because if I have 100% disclosure, I'm not sure I can stand it. So yes, the light, the universe will always give us what we can handle. And so, okay, I want to go the extra mile. I'm asking the universe, I'm asking the creator, give me a tiny bit more disclosure so I can rid myself a little bit more of that evil spirit that is in me so that I can be more connected and more elevated so that I can do more my work, the work of the creator. So that I can be more accomplished, so I can be more performing with my tikkun. Does it make sense? So I could spend a lot more time talking about Balak, but we're not here to talk about somebody else. We're here to talk about us. Because at the end of the day, it's us who need to change so that we can change the world. Our world, your world. The world that you live with your kids, with your neighbors, with your loved ones. By us changing, that is what we're changing. We're changing the perspective, we're changing the reality of everything that ultimately comes back to us the next day. Starting with admitting that the change needs to start. If you don't see that there is nothing to change with you today, oh yeah, I went to the miracle course and I did Kabbalah 1, 2, and 3. I worked on myself. Yeah, that was like 3 years ago. What did you do since then? Oh, I'm doing this connection and that connection and that. Oh, so did you do any change? What did you change? What have you worked on yourself to remove a little bit more layers? What new layer of evil have you discovered about yourself that you have overcome? What new addiction? Because each one of those layers of negativity is an addiction, each one of them. And to overcome an addiction is not an easy thing. And so first is admission, asking for help, and then God help us. But this is what he needs to start with. Any questions? Very well. Thank you very much, everybody. And it was great seeing all of you. And I'll see you again next Monday.
Thank you, Yehuda.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yehuda.
Bye-bye.